And now for our feature presentation.
This is great because on the back it actually says this film is also known as
the I'll Watch It Later podcast.
You ever heard of that film?
And now, on with the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to I'll Watch It Later podcast. I am your host, as always, Aaron, joined by my bestest friend in the whole world, Jordan.
Hello.
And my best friend, producer, and brother-in-law, Scott.
Hello.
Hi. So we have quite the show for you today. I don't know where we want to start this off. What have we seen this week? What are we looking forward to? We all saw Scream.
Let's get the fastest part out of the way. Hey, did you watch anything different this week, Scott?
I watched Sing 2.
Oh, God, you did. That's right. You know what? I thought I had a funny setup. Tell me about Sing 2.
I thought you guys didn't like it.
No, it was fine. It was. I ended up, because the girls watched it, and I was in the same room. I count that as I watched Sing 2. And if you dig musicals, it's got all like the newer stuff, but Bono's in it. It's got a lot of U2 driven music, so it's got a little bit for everybody.
Into your iTunes against your will in about a month.
Yeah, my daughter was already downloading stuff on her phone, and I'm like, there's a better version of that song. She's like, no, I want the Sing 2 version.
Oh my God,
so
that's crazy.
How crazy is it?
So crazy. No, I watched.
This is the way you said that. I'm going to keep interrupting you. I apologize.
Of course, you don't care. Let's see. What did I watch? I watched Tragedy Macbeth last night.
Shut it.
Was it as good as Sing 2?
Oh, not as fun. No, it's all I'm gonna say is it is a fantastic movie. It was interesting to see Joel Coen do his own thing and not see a Coen Brothers movie on the credits, but it was very, very good. Shot beautifully. It was in black and white. It's 4.3 aspect. Reminded me a lot of The Lighthouse. The only difference is this is very HDR high tones, so like the brights are very bright, whereas like The Lighthouse, I think, was intentionally just dark, so you couldn't see what the hell was going on half the time. But it was really good. And then we did our Scream show, and we all watched a Scary Movie together last week when we were going to watch Scream, and then we ended up watching Scary Movie.
I was
and
like, what Scary Movie did we watch? No, we watched Scary
Movie, and I got to say, aside from a few jokes that feel dated, everything else was fucking hilarious. I laughed so hard in that movie.
It was
like to this day.
It was great. I actually went on the Letterboxd and started reading some of the reviews, and some of those people are very, very tight waddish because they're just giving it like 1 star, and I'm like,
so dumb.
But I'm reading the review, and it's like these jokes are bad and blah blah blah, and it's like you got to think of the time, man. Like during the time, this was excellent comedy written by the Wayans brothers, so you got all that in there, and then it holds up. It's still funny to this day.
Right.
There are the What's Up stuff that's a little dated. The Matrix stuff is a little dated, but I would say overall, like the
jokes are they hit like every time, and we were literally laughing teeth out, just going crazy over it. I'm like, I can't believe I haven't watched this sooner. Like it's just really funny. So I did the same thing. I started doing a deep dive and reading about how like the second one went into production way too fast because Dimension wanted a sequel real quick to capitalize, and the Wayans brothers hated the second movie because it just felt forced.
Money.
And then what's that coming into town?
Right,
it's the cash cow.
Yep.
So they dropped out, and that's why all the subsequent sequels were done by I think like Jeff Zucker and the guys who did like Airplane and stuff like that.
The thing about it is like I had mentioned this in my review, but like Don't Look Up is a satire, and I didn't like that movie at all, but I feel like this like Scary Movie is how you actually do a satire, and Don't Look Up is how you don't do a satire.
Yeah.
And I felt like that if you got rid of some of the stuff that ages it, that movie could be watched anytime, any year.
Agree.
And it's just awesome. So
still funny.
We did have a good time watching that.
What'd you watch?
I didn't watch anything this week because I have a child and a job, and I have people who are out on COVID, so I had to,
You had adult.
I had
for
to
the
adult
week?
this week. Yeah, which I hate that phrase, but Yes, I had to.
The older you get, the more
but,
true it gets.
I'm watching some
Like,
movies.
I'm tired at 9 o'clock at night. Good night, everybody.
9 o'clock at night, I work till 3 a.m. and then I'm like, movie or sleep, and it's like,
Yeah, the other night you're like, I'm forcing myself to be up, and it was like 10 to midnight. I'm like, that sucks.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be watching a movie for another hour,
But
then I'm gonna go to bed.
I think my schedule is slowly turning back to normal, and I'll be watching a lot of stuff this week, and I'm definitely watching Tragedy of Macbeth tonight, so
Please
we
do.
can talk about that
Please
on
watch The Night House.
the next show. We'll see. I like to tell you to watch things and not watch them.
Clearly,
I mean, he did say in the show he was watching it that night.
it's
yeah,
true.
I lied, but I'm busy. I'm
Straight
a
up,
busy
really lied.
boy.
Call you out.
I'm a busy man. Okay, guys. So, for us, we were lucky enough to have Jeff Haidaczuk from Rucking Fotten on the show, and we interviewed him, and we're going to get into that right now. How are you doing today, Jeff?
Doing well, man. How you doing today?
I'm great. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got involved with the company, all that good stuff.
Oh, sure. So it's kind of a funny story. So Sean was a friend of a friend, and I had actually been buying shirts, and I had a friend visiting from out of town, and he said, "Oh, that's Sean's company." When I was wearing, I believe it was the Scream shirt,
Oh, nice.
the original one, and I was like, "Oh, crazy!" And he connected us, and then we started doing. I don't know how long you've been following the brand at all, but we did the first New York Comic-Con drop where you had to find me to buy it.
Oh, that's
And that was a blast. And then we did it at D-Con, and then that was in November. And then, so I have a social media marketing background, and Sean was really bad at social media. And he did,
Sounds like
he
Aaron.
did a post. Yeah, he did a post on New Year's Eve. I was literally like in the parking lot of the place I was taking my now wife to dinner. And he made a post, and I said, "Hold on." And I called him, and I said, "Hey, man, I got some ideas, and I think that they might, apply to your business." And he said, "I don't know, man." And I said, "Hey, just give me a shot." And he gave me a shot, and we've been joined at the hip ever since.
That's crazy. So you had marketing background. That was with Mondo, right?
Before that, I was actually the social media manager of Converse for about 8 years.
Oh, that's pretty.
And
much
then
90% of
I
shoes.
took my show on the road for about a year, and then I got picked up by Mondo, which was great. And then COVID happened, unfortunately, and I was in the first batch of layoffs.
Yeah,
because
I was gonna say
from
other than
Alamo.
Yeah, say other than Rucking Fotten, basically Mondo is my life. I've been buying stupid things.
Oh
from there.
yeah, it was.
You know,
I shit you not when I say that it was a dream job, and I started the week before San Diego Comic-Con of 2018.
okay.
No, was it 2018? 2019. And I was down in Texas. I came home for 3 days and then flew out to San Diego. And my wife texted me, and she was like, "Oh, like, how's it going?" I said, "I literally feel like I got caught stealing at Empire Records and they hired me."
Right? Yeah. I mean, I sit there and I look at some of the things that they release and some of the posters, and I'm sitting there going, my checkbook can't handle half the things that.
Yeah,
that they're
and
putting out.
it's just the family environment that they created. It's 100% legit. I've worked for a lot of corporations that are toxic and terrible, and you think you're walking into the Hunger Games every day, but everything you think and want Mondo to be, it is. So I was stoked to have my time there.
Well, and that's what I kind of feel like Rucking Fotten has become, where it's like it's a smaller company. I mean, I honestly didn't know much about the company and the shirts before Aaron and I started really kind of reconnecting. We've been friends for years, and it's one of those things where it's like I would see him wearing these shirts. I'm like, actually, that's really cool. That's cool. You know, like his movie tastes are kind of in line with mine, and it became one of those weird things where, you know, that weird, you know, you buy a car and all of a sudden you keep seeing that car out on the road now. It's that same thing where it's like, okay, now I'm seeing these everywhere. I'm seeing, you know, literally, kid you not, we're walking down the street and someone stops him and says, "Hey, is that a Rucking Fotten shirt?" And I didn't really think too much into it until I finally said, "Fine, I'm going to buy a shirt." And then, 30 shirts later, I'm sitting here with a closet full of them. When you came on and started helping Sean out with, the social media and stuff like that, did you kind of expect this kind of explosion? Because it is, I'm part of the Facebook group. I see the shirts now everywhere. I even saw the guitarist of Killswitch Engage when I went to the Slipknot show here in Phoenix wearing the shirt. And I'm just like, you guys are fucking everywhere now. Now that I've sunk all my money into it, did you expect that kind of explosion?
It's been pretty bananas, to say the least. When we sponsored Beyond Fest last year,
right? And
we did a limited run of 50 Beyond Fest Rucking Fotten shirts, and the only way you could get them was to show up wearing an existing shirt. And we went to the one that was bananas was the Halloween Kills premiere.
I was actually following along with that. I was actually very jealous because I'm a huge Halloween person, and I'm sitting there watching Jamie Lee Curtis there, and I'm just like, I want to be there.
Yeah, that was she was on fire. But there were so many people wearing our shirts that it made Sean uncomfortable. Like he was like, "Yo, like this is really weird." I was like, "Well, we told them to do it." Right. But it's crazy. I was on vacation, and I was in a hotel in Burbank, California, and some dude walked in wearing a shirt just like randomly. Conventions are one thing definitely, but when you see them in the wild, it's like, whoa.
Well, yeah, like I said, we were literally, me and Aaron were walking into a burger place down in Tucson, and someone legitimately stopped him and said, "Hey, is that a Rucking Fotten shirt?" And it was just some rando guy, and then he just walked off. We were like, "Yeah, it was great. That's cool." And then he just walked away, and I'm like, "That was so weird."
It was the Twin Peaks shirt, and I had 3 people come up to me that day and ask me, "Where did you get that shirt? And like, is this from this company?" And I was like, wow, I didn't even, I buy the shirts. They fill up my closet. My wife gets very mad. She's like, "You have way too many shirts." And then people start recognizing them. And I thought it was like my own little club. Like, this is my own little club. I started buying the shirts when it was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Joker, and and Uncut Gems. And I didn't know what you guys were. I found you on a sponsored ad on Instagram, and from there it's become my life. Like it's every day. It's every day. With the
honestly,
shirts.
I don't think I've ever seen him in anything other than a Rucking Fotten shirt. And I wish I were kidding, but it's legitimately his life.
Yeah, it's been overwhelming to say the least. And I think the one thing that I'd say the 2 things that we are most proud of is the diversity in our audience, in our customers, and our I don't want to use the word fans, but the people that buy our shirts, like the wide variety. Like, if you follow us on Instagram, when we're posting the stuff in the stories, like there's nobody that looks the same.
You know what? You're not wrong. Like I've had a couple moments where I've thrown a picture out and I've been in the thing, and it's like, oh, look, there's my dumb face. And then there's like someone that looks 10 times cooler than me. I'm like, okay. I guess. Thanks.
Same shirt too.
Like same shirt. You look way better in it, but that's cool.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. You got normies, and you've got, goth people and punks, and
it definitely runs the gamut.
It's awesome. And the other thing that I love so much is the community that we're building. Especially with the Facebook groups and stuff like that. Right. And we did the movie gang, and that's been a blast. But like, with the, when we do the convention shirts on the East Coast, we've got people that are buying for people on the West Coast. And when we have something on the West Coast, we've got people buying for people on the East Coast. And it's just awesome to see people building friendships and relationships and helping each other out.
Oh, it's no joke. Like I had somebody that I know on the East Coast that was able to get into New York Comic Con, and that's the first thing I told him was like, find this booth, find these people. I need this shirt.
This year was insane.
They were gone before he could even get to you guys. Like they were just
45 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I was working Jason Edmonston's booth like I usually do.
Right.
And like people were jumping over people in his line, and it was like overwhelming.
It's insane. And you call them fans, but I mean, I've never seen a fervor for just a brand. I mean, you've got the people who are like, make Apple their brand or things like that. But these are people that are actually passionate about not only movies, but the product you guys put out. And I think that does speak to the quality of what you guys have done.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like, there is the frustrating side of things. Obviously, production times, getting our hands on stock and so forth is an absolute nightmare and the bane of our existence. And
yeah, and I can't
but,
imagine with prices going up on things that it makes it easy to raise prices on what you call your fan base and things like that. But you've built enough goodwill with everybody. I think most people took to it pretty great.
And I like there are the issue that we have is when new people find us and they're not used to what's going on, then they get a little agitated.
I love seeing those posts on the Facebook group where it's some new guy and they're just like, "Where's my shirt?" And I'm like, "Oh, first time, huh?" Like,
that's the easier side of things. It's the people threatening us and with physical violence and stuff like that in the emails.
That's actually a question I was going to ask you was, what are some of the craziest emails you've got? Because I know dealing with I think it's Sean's girlfriend. Usually when I email in, that's who responds. And sometimes I don't even I don't think I'm coming off as mean or anything like
asshole.
that. Yeah, I'm not trying to come off that way. But sometimes I'll get a little bit of a spicy response, and I'm okay with that because I get it. You guys are very, very busy.
Yeah.
But usually she's good about updating me and stuff like that. So I don't take any offense to it. But I know that behind those email walls, there has to be some crazy stuff going on. Can you talk a little bit about those emails?
99% of them start with, "Where the fuck is my shirt?"
Yeah, and we want names and addresses, by the way.
Yeah, I'll contact these people for you.
And it's super. The last thing, when we take an order, first of all, we don't take anything for granted. And when we take an order, we're come hell or high water, you're getting that shirt. And if this past year, I think USPS lost over 600 packages on us.
They are the worst. I hate them.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was just they just threw their hands up. They were like, "Oh, well, they'll show up or they won't." And it's like, "Excuse me?"
Yeah, when you guys made the move to going to UPS, honestly, I was well past okay paying the extra to do that. You said it's going to cost this. I'm like, "Here's my money. Just get me my shirt."
Yeah, and the other thing too is I'm in Boston, Sean's in Ohio. Megan handles all the logistics and shipping, and we've got a couple other people that help pack orders. But if she's emailing you to to respond to where's your shirt, that means she's stopping to packing orders to do that. And that's if things come off short or curt, that's obviously not intended. It's that especially we're still catching up from last year. That's why we haven't released anything so far this year. We want to make sure that we have the decks as clear as possible before we can start.
Right, Aaron.
My wallet thanks you right now for that. But no, like I said, I love Megan. I think she's amazing. I follow her on Instagram and we talk every once in a while. I talk to Sean too sometimes. You guys are awesome. I think your customer service is next level. Mainly with this, I'm glad that people are going to be able to hear this because honestly, I see the comments in Facebook. I see the comments on Instagram and I feel bad for you. I know you can't answer all of them, but honestly, it's like this. These products are one of a kind. Once they're gone, they're gone. You can't. Yeah, I see the aftermarket and stuff like that, but it's just these. They're so special to a lot of people, especially when it comes to movies and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then that's another thing is people you just mentioned the aftermarket. And, a lot of people get pissed when stuff goes up on eBay for more money, and it I think the thing that nobody realizes is how much that helps a brand like us.
Right.
Yeah, it's that secondary
by generating
market that pushes
generating that heat and keeping that focus on us. People are like, "Oh, you should find out who bought this and contact eBay and cancel their," and I'm just like, no. I understand the frustration. I collect sneakers and I collect posters and I collect every limited edition item you can think of. I waited up till it sounds funny, I waited up till 10 o'clock last week to try to get a cause figure, and but it was an absolute nightmare. It was a fool's errand just to even think I was going to get it. But,
well, yeah, it's the same with me and some of the Mondo drops. I was able to get. I missed out on the first run of the Tron soundtrack on vinyl for the Daft Punk, and it made me bitter to no end. And then I finally was able to get that second pressing that they did, and it was just so happy about it. And I was able to get the wasn't not Dawn of the Dead. It was what was that movie that we just watched?
The Return.
Return of the Living Dead
Dead
poster that was just put
yeah,
out
yeah.
recently. Oh my God, it's just beautiful, and it's like I'm the same way where it's like I'll wait up to the late hour of 10 o'clock because I'm old, and I have to get some of these pre-orders down.
Return of the Living Dead was one of your guys' like biggest. I mean, there seemed to be so many issues with those shirts.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I think every time we try to do something new, we could probably write a full book on what not to do.
I would buy every one of those books.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. Just, on that topic, I mean, at some point, you guys have been doing this long enough. Do a book. Put out a book.
Yeah,
like, I know you guys
we're already
have
talking about that actually.
Okay, yeah.
I got some cool ideas, but yeah, it's the all over print. We hired a company a printing company to do those for us.
Right.
And they said they shipped them and they ended up, so they were in, I want to say Chicago or something like that. Maybe I shouldn't say where they're from.
No, name names.
We can cut it out. Whatever you don't want us to put in, we can cut it.
They weren't far from Ohio, and the shirts, the boxes ended up in Texas, and then this was after like they ghosted us for like weeks and weeks and weeks, and then all of a sudden, they wouldn't answer our phone calls. They wouldn't, it was an absolute nightmare. And then we get one of 3 boxes in, and it's all blank T-shirts.
No.
I was gonna say that's got to
was,
be frustrating, especially when you guys are kind of going more outside the box on some of the designs, because I've seen the evolution of this is just a cool print on the front to where now you guys are doing. I mean, not to bring up a sore subject, but with your Heat shirts having the wrong lettering on the arms. I mean, that's got to be frustrating, but that just shows how much outside the box you guys are starting to think with some of these designs, where you're getting a lot more detail and more things.
That's been a lot of the fun stuff we do is especially with my job, because I kind of art direct a little bit. So Sean will send me something, and it's like a very like it's a one word response. It'll be like yes, no, and like. But like, for example, like the Matrix one, like he had it all done, and I was like, "Yo, can we do a blue pill on one sleeve and a red pill on the other?" And he was like, "Oh man, that's like 2 more." And I'm like, "Just fucking do it." And like, and then the other one was, right before we posted the Candyman reveal, I was like, "Hey, can you take that one? Can you like flip it?" And he was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, make it reverse so it only looks right in the mirror. And he was like, "Ooh, that's fucking good."
That is. Oh wow, that is good.
So yeah. Just it's a lot of our job is where the fun comes in is if we look at something and say like, hey, what about this?
Now, with your guys' collaboration, it seems like you guys have a pretty good working relationship. Are there times where you guys just butt heads so much that maybe a design never makes it out, or
that's why I
he
didn't
gets
get a
upset
birthday
that you're
shirt
trying
this year.
to art direct him in a way that he doesn't feel comfortable? Like,
yeah, so in October I always get my birthday shirt, and this year I didn't get it, and I was upset about it.
What's your birthday shirt? I want to know what it would be.
My birthday shirt was going to be, so it started years ago with Selena, because I am a diehard Selena fan.
There you go.
And then it was La Bamba, which was amazing, and everybody loved La Bamba. And then I was trying to come up with something radical for this year, and the only thing I could land on was the immortal classic Over the Top starring Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah.
I would have bought 4
Oh
of
my
those shirts.
God.
Yeah.
I want it.
I'm being told that I will get it someday, but he just couldn't stick the landing. He just wasn't feeling it. And I understand, when you're trying to do something that you're not 100% into, you're not going to get it right, and it's going to show.
Right.
You know what I mean? So he didn't want to half-ass something. So we tabled it, and we ended up doing something else instead. So at some point we will get Over the Top, and there will be trucker hats that you have to wear backwards, and there will
You'll be seeing my post wearing them, trust me.
Yeah, sleeveless red shirts that say Blaster and Kanji, and it'll be a full drop.
Oh, I can't wait.
Worthy of it.
Buying for my kids.
So while I have you, I have to ask, because and I know this is a sore subject, so I apologize. Kevin Smith shirts. What's your beef? Because
it's no real beef. It's no
okay.
real beef. It's it's kind of spiraled out of control at this point. It started as a joke where I would just be like, no, it's just honestly, I love that Kevin Smith exists, and I love that Kevin Smith makes the movies that he does, and there are people out there that like him. For me personally, I feel that he is playing it safe, and I feel that he is playing to his base, where if looking back at Clerks and Mallrats, where if he had continued to evolve as a filmmaker, I feel like he would have been fantastic. I just saw so much potential go to waste, and that's what bummed me out. And then there were a couple other business decisions that he did that I didn't necessarily agree with, and that's kind of where it is. But obviously it's nothing that has to do with anything personally with me.
I always see you shoot it down online, and I had to ask because I'm such a fan of his early work, and I follow him and I go see him live and stuff like that. And
I think he's an incredible storyteller. I will watch, I watch the YouTube videos where he's telling like the Prince stories and stuff like that, and I think those are incredible. It's just I feel like his movies they just haven't hit for me. But it could be any number of things on my end. It could be that I don't listen to the same bands I listened to when I was 16 either. So
I totally understand that.
It's just tastes evolve, and it is what it is. But Clerks is a bona fide masterpiece, and Mallrats, I have a picture with his name just blew out of my head. Dude, Yondu from Michael Rooker.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a picture of Michael Rooker and chocolate covered pretzels, and I actually even like Jersey Girl, which I don't think anybody else likes.
I do. I love Jersey Girl. I don't care. Yeah. George Carlin is a god. He could do anything. Yeah. I'm a big Ben Affleck apologist, so I will watch anything he's in.
He shot. So I'm in Boston, or a little bit north of Boston. So obviously I'm holding it down for him, but that movie Live by Night, really weird 1920. He shot a bit of that at my apartment building.
Oh, that's awesome.
So so I got to meet him like literally right outside my front door, and it was super cool to actually see him working, and he was using the cinematographer that Tarantino uses a lot.
Okay.
So just watching them. Yeah,
I'm a big Tarantino guy. So
yeah, same. That New Beverly drop was
I wanted to be there so bad, Jeff. You don't understand. They were like $50 for a shirt. I would have paid $100. I would have paid $100 for a shirt.
Yeah, and that had been in the works. I mean, those were printed pre-pandemic, and when they shut down, they just didn't have any way to sell them, so they sat on them for almost 2 years. So when they finally came out, we were so excited, and it was great to be a part of that.
My question, okay, so I'm sitting here and I'm looking through, I follow not only your Instagram, but there's a secondary Instagram that shows like all the previous drops and things like that.
Oh, the archive guy?
Yes, and I love it, and I also really hate it that I came on so late, because I was seeing designs like, I really want that. And that's why like sometimes when you guys do the leftovers drop and I was finally able to get the lighthouse, I was just, I get a little giddy about it. Do you guys run into an issue where licensing becomes an issue and someone says, okay, you can't use that after you've, already thrown it out there, and you guys get a lot of, pushback on something? Because I see a lot of properties that you guys do. And obviously I know you're trying to cater to what would sell and what would be popular. Mm-hmm. Do you ever come across where it's like, I have an idea for a design, and, Sean's on and you're on, and then you realize, oh no, the big lawyered hand of Disney would come and slap that right out of your guys' company. Do you guys run into that at all?
Well, I mean, we basically, to answer this as nicely as I can, we try to play it as smart as possible.
That's a good answer.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very diplomatic.
Yeah, we're good with the safe answer. That's all right.
Let's just say I have reached I've sent a message on Instagram at like 2:00 in the morning, and Sean has definitely hit me back, and I think he has told me stuff that I'm not supposed to know. So I completely understand. I think I'm aware of what's coming in this leftover drop, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'm excited. Is that the next drop for you guys, by the way? Is that what?
No. So this week, I don't know when this is going to air, but the third week in January is going to be a mystery drop. So it'll be a 3-pack of shirts that you won't know what the design is.
Yeah, I think I know what the design is.
I was actually kind of hoping that wouldn't happen right away, because now I got to figure out my budget. budget. But yes,
I'm
I've heard
hoping.
about this.
I'm hoping. I don't know what it is, but like I said, I was talking to him about movie gang stuff, and he kind of was like, you want these 3 shirts, and I was like, okay, so I will be on it. And this is actually going to show up on iTunes next Sunday. So next Sunday this will be up.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the shirt will still be available.
Okay.
The shirts will still be available, and then we have a week off, and then the February 4th, I believe it is, will be our next archive drop. Yeah.
Awesome.
And then we're off to the races for the rest of the year. We were, like I said, we were doing our best to we're going to clear the decks as much as possible.
Right.
And then I believe the only thing that we have out right now is Terminator 1 and 2 from Black Friday. Those should be done and ready to start shipping at the end of this coming week. So we should be doing in a very good place, which I'm super stoked on.
I was gonna say, I think I have the Thing coming like this week.
I just
like,
got my
Thing
notification.
Those are all out the door right now. And the other stuff from October.
I know what you did last summer.
Yeah, I know what you did last summer. The Craft, the Poltergeist, and the Conjuring, and the Exorcist. The Exorcist was a bit of a beast, so
I'm sure
we're finally getting those out. And then we've got some awesome stuff lined up for this year. I think we've got 6 conventions. We're doing another poster show this one will be in New York in June with
Running
Spoke.
out of room on my walls, Jeff.
Yeah, and then we're already talking to Beyond Fest again about doing that, and they're exploring the option of giving us Rucking Fotten Presents screening. So we're looking forward to that.
That'd be cool.
We've kicked around a very awesome idea, and if it comes to light, it will be like the highlight of my professional career.
Dang it!
I'm excited.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, yeah. It's everything's looking great for this year. I'm very excited.
I know you guys are usually planned out. I think from what I remember, you guys pretty much have a calendar set out till like June. Is there like
June's locked. All the way to June is locked right now.
Is there like a personal grail property that you like other than Over the Top for your birthday? Was there something that like maybe you would want that like eventually you guys want to do, or is it's so far out there other than Selena that no one else would want, so it's just you get it for you and that's it.
Yeah, I think there are some random ones that I would love to do, but I don't know if they have the audience for them. But like I think we're looking to try to do like a really good official Halloween 3 drop, because Halloween 3 is like
I love Halloween 3. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah. Tom Atkins is a god.
I watched Tom Atkins on a documentary, 2 different documentaries. It's called, I think, Into the Dark, and it's about horror movies.
Oh,
in the 80s.
yeah.
And I watched both of those. And when I first put it on, I didn't realize it was a 4-hour documentary. And then I was like, well, I'll watch the second one, and it was another 4-hour documentary. So 8 hours of my day went away. And what I took from that is, A, I grew up watching every bit of it. This is why I'm fucked up. And B, Tom Atkins is a guy I want to go meet. Like, I never thought about it, and then I watched these interviews with him, and I'm like, I need to meet this guy. He's getting up there in age. I went on the internet, was looking at conventions that are possibly coming up. There was one in London. I'm like, ooh, maybe I need to fly out to London just to meet Tom Atkins. I would love a Halloween 3 drop.
He's going to be at Horror Hound in March in Cincinnati, and we'll be at that one. I've been fortunate enough to meet him, I think 2 or 3 times now, and he's an absolute
He seems genuinely
treasure.
like nice, like just the way he comes off.
He pulls up at 10 a.m. at his booth and with a 6-pack of beer, and he just like cusses at everybody and yells at everybody in line, and he is exactly what you think he is.
That's amazing.
It's incredible.
Well, Jeff, I super appreciate you coming on the show today. I don't want to take up all your day, and I appreciate you working this out with us. So I'm just going to ask you 2 quick questions just to bring it back to the show. Is there a movie that you think is super underrated that no one has seen that you think they should see?
Oh, I got a random one.
Okay.
And this is not necessarily do I think this movie is like an all-timer or whatever, but I think it was like 2006. Let me go look at. I'll walk over to my Blu-ray.
You're fine. You're good.
Running Scared with Paul Walker.
I saw that in the theaters.
Isn't that a remake?
love that movie.
It's based on a graphic novel.
Oh, okay. I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's absolutely incredible. And it's one of those ones, there it is, with an incredible cast. Yeah, I think it's like 2006. I was living in California, and I went to like Hollywood Video when they used to buy DVDs like
I
3 for 20.
worked at
I
Hollywood
used to work
Video.
at Hollywood Video, so
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I remember seeing the trailer for this, and it blew me away. And it's one of those ones I love to show people because everybody's like, where the hell was this movie? And I was like, it's been on the shelf this whole time, and nobody's been watching it.
I'm not gonna lie. I thought you were gonna go a different direction. I was like sitting there going, did I guess what your movie was? And wow, running scared.
Running Scared, I actually saw in the theaters. I have a quick funny story about it. We went and saw it. The theater shut down, like it lost power, and we had to go back. They gave us free tickets, and they were like, well, let's go see something else. I was like, no, I have to finish Running Scared.
Yeah.
So, and I watch it yearly now. And then my second question is there a movie that everyone tells you should have watched, but you never gotten around to watching it? Because that's kind of the theme of our show.
I literally started talking about this on Facebook the other day with like, on my personal page, where I was like, what's a movie that, people think you should have seen that you haven't seen? And mine is The Godfather.
Oh, okay.
I'm the same way.
I've owned it on VHS. I've owned it on DVD. I've owned it on Blu-ray. And it's coming out on 4K. I'll probably buy that too. I still haven't watched it yet, but it's gonna be back in the theaters at the end of February. So I think I'm gonna try to go see it.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's a
and
perfect
experience it that way would be pretty incredible. But it's I've seen bits and pieces, and I can have a conversation about the movie, but I've never sat down and watched it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm the exact same way. Where it's like I know enough of The Godfather to kind of fake it, but I have never actually watched it. And I was the same way with Scarface for the longest time, and I finally watched that.
Yeah. What I did was, with like the Barnes and Noble and Criterion sales, is I stock up on all these movies that I should watch.
I'll have to send you a picture of Aaron's room that we're sitting in right
so
now.
we
It's
literally-
nothing but shrink wrapped movies he'll never open.
We do this show in my movie dungeon, whatever you want to call it, and it's nothing but shelves of wrapped movies that I have not watched yet.
Yeah.
And we have even a little theme song where it's like, I own it, but I've never seen it. So it's, I totally understand. That is an amazing, we're pretty much best friends now. So that's awesome.
Yeah. It's like, I figured, so what I did the other day was I pulled, I think I got about 12 movies, like Criterions that I haven't watched yet, or in their movies that I've never seen before, and I put them in order that I want to watch them. So this winter during it's probably going to be mostly on Sundays, but if there's a snowstorm or whatever, that I can just start going through and checking off some boxes.
I was going to say I'm going to need that list just so I know what possibly after June the next drops will be, because you're going to be like, this was a fantastic movie, Sean, you got to do a shirt.
Memories of a Murder.
When you see us drop the Friends of Eddie Coyle, I've
Right.
completed.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. You've been amazing, and like I said, the show will be out next Sunday, so we can promote it on Facebook and stuff like that. We're kind of canning shows right now because Jordan's a really busy guy, but we really, really appreciate you being on.
For sure, man. Thank you so much. This was a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Have a great day, y'all.
You too, man. We really want to thank Jeff for being on the show. That was a total blast having him on the show.
That was really fun.
Jordan killed it with those questions. I kind of let him do his own thing there because I was scared, and then hopefully Scott will make it sound good.
Aaron just sat there and shook in his chair the whole time.
I was like a leaf.
Like a leaf.
I was terrified, but we really appreciate Jeff being on the show. Definitely head over to Rucking Fotten's Instagram, their Facebook group, their page, and give them some love. Tell them you heard about him on this show or whatever. If you're coming from Rucking Fotten and you heard him on the show, welcome. We are 3 guys who watch a bunch of movies we've never seen before and talk about them into a microphone, just like you could do at home. But we try to make it as fun as possible and try to incorporate everything. So thanks again, Jeff, for being on this show.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of those brands that we put our money where our mouth is. I mean, we just didn't have him on just to have him on. We spend so much money with this company, so they keep doing the great work. We're going to continue to spend most of our kids' dinner money.
And it was just a lot of fun talking to him. So
it was good.
And you can Venmo us $10, and we'll tell you everything that he said is coming out in the next month.
Yeah, we'll do.
We cut out
so many things, but you Venmo us $10, and we'll tell you everything. We'll spill the beans. All right, so. We watched Jordan's movie. What was your movie, Jordan?
It was 1968's Where Eagles Dare.
Now with McPherson dead, there's only 5 of us left. So you either let me know what's going on, or there's only going to be four.
From the company that brought you The Dirty Dozen, and the author who gave you The Guns of Navarone, Richard Burton and Clint Eastwood.
Lieutenant, drop that gun.
What?
Drop that gun and sit down.
What the hell are you talking about?
Where Eagles Dare.
It is a British World War II action movie directed by Brian Hutton. It starred Richard Burton, who was, I believe, married to Elizabeth Taylor at the time, and he wanted to make a movie most of his kids and family could see, so he kind of made this movie. Clint Eastwood was on it. A woman named Mary Urey, who was married to Robert Shaw at the time, so she's got a nice pedigree. So quite a cast of some familiar faces, but relatively a lot of unknowns, and one really German-looking dude. I mean,
Which one? The blonde guy?
The blonde guy, the SS
the
officer.
one German-looking guy.
The
in the whole
one
movie.
guy.
I feel like they went and were like, "Are you an actual Nazi?" And he's like, "Yeah, don't tell anybody." And they're like, "We
Filmed
won't,
in Argentina.
but we really need you to."
I act very well.
I know a few things.
Yeah, we did watch Where Eagles Dare, which has, I guess, the internet has it jerks this movie off as best I could describe it. It says it's the greatest war film of all time.
I wouldn't say it's the greatest. I enjoyed it.
It's interesting.
The problem it reminded me of when we watched Once Upon a Time in the West, where all those
That's
movies,
exactly what I was going to say.
they drag out a little bit. They spend a lot. I mean, if they're already going to spend the money on the cameras and going to Austria to film this, they're going to film every vista, every mountain, every slow-moving thing that they can, and they are going to use that to their advantage. And it felt it. It felt
very 1960s.
Very slow.
You felt every minute of this movie, and I mean that in a not great way. Like, it was 2.5 hours long. It felt 2.5 hours long.
Well, it was like I was saying earlier. This is a tale of two movies.
Yes.
The first hour is something that could have been completely cut out of this movie, because the second hour and a half of this movie is actually not bad.
It's not bad, but it sounds better on, like, if I describe this movie to you, it sounds better being described to you, or if I told the story to you, than actually watching the film itself, in my opinion. I went into at one point I was watching the first hour of this film and I fell asleep, and Kim was like, "You go take a nap and watch it."
We got the pictures.
I hate you so much. Kim was like, "Go take a nap, or I will tell them you fell asleep during this film." And I was like, "Okay." And then I woke up and
Snitches get stitches.
I was actually working on some of the Scream stuff, watching the rest of it, and I was just like, "Oh man." I didn't necessarily hate this movie, though. I know it sounds like we're kind of giving it a hard time, but like I said, this movie's story is actually phenomenal. And
when you write the concept out, it's quite fascinating, because these guys, these military guys are, they're disguised as Nazis, and they're going to infiltrate the Nazi camp.
Oh my god.
very Wolfenstein.
Yeah.
So that leads me to one of my first weird complaints about this. They did not give a fuck about authenticity in the 1960s. Every person you're supposed to believe is speaking German to the German officers. This guy is Major British guy. This is Clint Eastwood, and they're speaking to the Nazis when they infiltrate this castle.
Clint Eastwood scowling at everybody.
Yeah, the castle Schloss Adler. They get in there, and they're all just talking normal. It's like, I'm this guy. I'm Himmler's the son or brother or something like that. And I'm sitting there going...
And
it bums me out that I expect accents, maybe some German dialogue. I don't know. There was one guy with a German accent.
There was one guy that was super believable, but did you notice that he was the only guy that was wearing a swastika armband?
Yes.
And he was in all black. Everybody else was in these iron cross uniforms, very gray.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, and that's what I had a hard time. I was like, okay, so are these guys supposed to be Nazis? Are they like, I was confused at the beginning.
Only reason I know any of this, I have very limited knowledge, but I watched Man in the High Castle.
Yes.
And the ones that
Castle.
were not, you know how that major was dressed up in that black and it was all
right.
So he's like a higher ranking like Adolf Hitler dude. Like he's like directly in line with Adolf Hitler. The rest are just like regular Nazis. Kind of like you'd have like
just regular Nazis.
Common Nazis.
Well, like you would have like a I don't know, like in a
Nazi light, Nazi dry.
Right. So like in
Nazi Zero.
So like in Kingdom times, like with the king, you would have like knights that were directly like responsible for the safety of the king, and then you have the army. So the ones that you're seeing when they're landing the helicopter, that's just the army. The dude dressed in black with all the Hitler stuff, that dude was like Adolf Hitler.
But he came across as like a fumbling, bumbling Nazi almost.
Maybe that's why he was sent to the castle. You could only be accessed by cable car.
I guess that's one thing this movie did do is it kind of funny enough put the Nazis in a very like
Hogan's Hero
mediocre light.
Well, yeah. They it's a British film,
right.
So their panties are in a bunch.
We're gonna make movies about you now.
But yeah, and I liked the concept that the castle could only be accessed by a cable car, and it was called the Castle of the Eagles or whatever when translated.
Schloss
so it was
Adler.
where it was like, so that's how you got the name Where Eagles Dare. I loved all that. Like I said,
concept-wise, it's really
explaining this is fucking fun.
It's
Watching
hard.
it is not so much.
It's at some point it's even hard to explain because you get to that point where the Major Smith or whatever, he gets into the room full of Nazis, and then all of a sudden he's like, well, I was a secret Nazi and I'm trying to do it. But then he's not a secret Nazi. But then he convinces somebody he's a Nazi. Even to the point where even Clint Eastwood's character is like, what the fuck is going on?
So that was the best part of the movie, though, was the double cross.
It was a triple cross. I don't even know what was going on.
I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and lie to y'all. I didn't completely understand that. They were in the room and they had to write down the 3 names, and that was the real...
it was mission. A ruse.
That was his test to see because he was essentially calling them out in front of everybody,
right,
to get them to all kind of go against each other in order for them to all write down all these informants' names.
Okay,
so that's how he was able to swindle them by essentially faking the turn on Clint Eastwood's character.
Yeah, it was a ruse, Aaron. It was a cunning attempt to trick him.
Okay, so I did understand that, but I thought that I didn't understand that. I was like, what?
Oh, no, honestly, it confused me at first because I think I was looking down at my phone while it was playing, and I looked at just the wrong time.
You had to.
And, I had to do some kind of crossword or something. And at some point, he's like, yeah, I am so-and-so from the German army. And I'm sitting there going, wait, what did I miss?
Right.
I had to rewind it go back. Rewind. That's so antiquated. I had to go back, and it was weird because he was tricking people, and then he was doing this, and he was tricking the guys that were in his regiment that came with him to see if they were really the bad guys the whole time.
That was probably the greatest part of the movie, though.
Yeah.
Because I actually, watching that part, I sat there.
That's when you had to pay attention.
Yeah, and when he kind of did the whole double cross thing to Eastwood's character, was like, you need to sit down, put your gun down, all this stuff. I was like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, right? I thought he double crossed him, and Eastwood's like, wait, what are you talking about?
I'm not going to say I called it, but when he wouldn't even help him through the window, I kind of was like, I was like, I think this guy's bad because why wouldn't he help him out the window?
Yeah,
up the window.
Well, his character was very. The only way I can describe it is he was very Humphrey Bogart. He was kind of the womanizer. He was very proper, like, frankly, my dear,
every country.
I don't give a damn type character. And that's what it reminded me of. And you have Eastwood's character who was just very kind of, he was the American guy, the guy that they brought along because, he could shoot a lot of people.
I didn't think the love story or whatever in this was interesting at all.
This woman pops up in every shed. She's right? In every building.
Well, and the funny thing is she was on the plane the entire time, and then it threw me off at first. They're like, okay, all these guys just jumped out, and then they're like, okay, now it's your turn. And this woman, they've already been flying for 10 more minutes. I'm like, she's never going to make it. She's already way off. And then, she ends up showing up in the house next to them, and then he hooks up with her, and then...
She's apparently the greatest spy in this whole movie.
Right.
Because she could show up anywhere at any time in any
Well, didn't
building.
she get a job at the castle
Yeah,
from the other
well,
lady?
apparently
because
he
she
had
was a
another
secretary?
he had another woman working at the castle somehow, and then got her in as like this is my cousin or whatever
Apparently
to
he
be
must
somebody.
give the good loving.
Oh, he's got a woman in every country.
Yeah.
and it's like at one point he was like saying stuff to the woman that was already in Germany and kind of like playful, and the other woman was just giving him side eye like, ooh, someone's gonna get in trouble. I thought there was gonna be some weird subplot where like one of the women turns on the other, and it didn't, and I was kind of bummed out. But I mean, for the most part, I mean. She was the greatest spy.
There was
basically.
plenty of turning on people. So the other thing I liked about this film was that it was almost video game esque, where they had to create like a route for themselves to get to later in the
Right.
movie, so that they could escape
with the speed bus.
Yes, and
love the speed bus.
I just I enjoyed that. So at the once you go through the whole movie, you find out that he really is a spy and he has to throw himself out of the plane.
No. That guy was one of the Nazis.
Right.
So
That was one of the colonels that they were dealing with that kind of sent them on the mission.
Yes.
And in
That's
the
what I meant.
books, when he kind of everybody sold each other out at the table, his name popped up in those books. So
Right.
while they were on the plane at the end, they were kind of like, ha, look, your fucking name is in this book. You're going to jump out of this fucking airplane now.
Well, it wasn't even that. The guy pulled the gun out on him, and he's like, "Yeah, did we gave you that gun?
Did you triple cross a double cross?
You triple cross, double cross.
You can't do that.
Yeah." And then, he, I guess they pulled the firing pins. He pulled the thing out, and he's like, "Well, I guess you got me over a barrel." And he goes, "Yeah," and then, I'm not going to kill you. And it even tells Clint Eastwood's character, he's like, don't get him before the hangman can, because they're going to take him back for treason. And he goes, you got either two options. You go back, we hang you and kill you for treason, or there's the door. And the guy literally
Shows
just
the door.
ragdolls himself out the window, the plane.
I don't know if I could do that. Not saying like, the hanging part's better. I just don't know if if I could physically throw myself out of a plane.
Right, and be like,
That's a long, slow death.
Yes.
Because it's like you have time to contemplate.
I wonder if you'd freeze to death before you hit the ground, though, because that air is super cold.
Oh, I don't know, but man, yeah, he flew himself out, and then Clint Eastwood has this like fun little iconic line. He goes, "And next time, make this a all British thing." And like, I'm just like,
leave me out of it.
Leave me out of it.
That was a good impression.
Whatever.
I know. I'm serious. That was a good impression. I thought he said, "Don't mind my friend. He's dead tired."
Now,
Commando
I'm
stick.
sitting there watching this movie, and I'm like, you could put anybody else in this movie in Clint Eastwood's spot, and the movie still works. I felt like he was just a name to attach to it.
It's the draw.
Yeah, I mean, it really wasn't a big part of this movie. Oddly enough, like it definitely centered around every other character. He was just kind of like, "Hey, I'm here. Hey, I'm here."
Considering this came after all his big westerns.
Yes.
And that's kind of, I think, why they had him in this movie. Yeah, he was almost a secondary character.
Well, he was a secondary character. His name is like third on the cast list. But I think, okay, so once again, I'm sorry. Going back to Tarantino, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, this movie was very that time period.
Oh, yeah.
He had just got done doing all of his Sergio Leone westerns. He was just getting put into things because to keep his face fresh, to keep him popular overseas. I think this was very, like, this is going to sound so meta and dumb, but Rick Dalton could have been in that movie, and that's a fake character. But, I mean, I just felt, when I was watching it, I felt like it was that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood 60s era where you were putting all those people in the same films over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Almost where they were being typecasted, but not on purpose. It's just that's what they were doing.
Well, it's funny because Eastwood didn't even want to take second billing to Richard Burton, and he relented eventually when they paid him $800,000 to do this role.
Hell yeah.
I'm like, yeah,
get
shoot.
your money, Clint.
I'll just put second on there. I'll get my money.
Well, and this movie is, and we were talking, kind of referred to it as like the Once Upon a Time in the West. The one thing Once Upon a Time in the West did better than this movie was that it really immersed you in the West.
Yes. Yeah.
This movie, it took me a long time to even feel like it was even a World War II aspect movie. I did not feel like it was like wartime. I think the sets were very small. When they were trying to escape the German camp and they were riding in the little sidecar motorcycle, it looked like we could have put that together in the backyard.
Well, I mean, it is the 60s.
Well, they also
but you're
developed.
outside. I mean,
Yeah, and they also developed some new camera techniques for the fight scene on top of the cable car. That was like a whole new thing. They had production issues from what I was reading, where like a big storm came through and it took forever to film in Austria to do this, and it became such a big thing that I think Clint Eastwood and Richard Burton would joke around calling the movie Where Doubles Dare, because all of their stunt doubles were on set like way more than even the principal actors.
Oh, wow.
So like it was a whole thing, and I guess it was pretty big back when it released. I know it was Richard Burton's last big film that he had a success with. Obviously Clint Eastwood went on to do a lot of other things, but I believe it was the same writer as The Dirty Dozen. And at some point, they even offered like Lee Marvin parts in the movie, and he's like, "Nah, I did this like 4 years prior," so he passed. But it definitely felt like Dirty Dozen without like the stakes. Like I didn't feel like the stakes were there, because at some point they're like, "Yeah, we're here because we have to get this American major before he spills the secrets." Just kidding. We planted him there. He's actually an actor. Just kidding. I'm an actor. Just kidding. I'm not. Just kidding. Like it was a lot of moments where I felt, I hate saying this about a movie in 1968, confused about what the hell was going on.
There's a lot of standing around watching, especially at the end of this movie. There's a lot of fighting going on. There's a lot of, where they've taken their prisoners and they've gotten loose and they've captured, and they're just kind of sitting at the window, watching.
There's a lot of tracking shots that with no dialogue, for very small scenes, like in a bar or in a, like that whole thing I was saying where Clint Eastwood was climbing up the window. They show that where it could have been an easy, like, he's climbing up the, like, let's go, or, and I'm not saying you necessarily have to rush a movie, but it didn't make sense to the story. It didn't make sense to the film. And I'm not even saying that's necessarily a bad thing. That might just be how they did it in the 60s. I'm not, versed on 60s war film.
Right.
But I'm just saying it just felt like there was way too many long tracking shots, a lot of stuff with no dialogue, and that really didn't add to any of the atmosphere of the film.
Yeah, there are times where you should cut, and there's times where you can linger, and a lot of this movie lingers in places it shouldn't, and that will be part of I would say my score's downfall on that, is that you sit there too long on certain things, and there would be weird times where they would pan the camera to something and then go into another scene, and like, that was weird. And then, so... I mean, for me, it was good. I don't know if I would ever watch it again. There are other better war movies out there.
Absolutely.
I still haven't seen Bridge on the River Kwai, which was going to be one of my picks.
Keep picking 60s war films.
You know what, though? That was my first one, so I'm good. But, I mean... it was good. Like, it's a weird way to think about, where it's like, I like this movie, but there are so many things about it that I don't like about it.
We're kind of on the same page with that, and that's kind of what, like, I wanted to talk to you about it during the week, but I didn't want to show my hand, as I said. I agree with you completely. I think this is a fantastic film that just doesn't work for me. Like I said, it's on paper. If I literally brought you into a classroom, sat you down and said, check this out, and went over the entire plot, and you're like, that'd make an incredible film.
Sounds awesome.
What if I told you about a spy movie where they infiltrate a German castle and someone double crosses another? Oh, and Clint Eastwood's in it,
right?
And there's a crazy fight scene on a cable car, and
someone
jumps out of a plane, and Speed 2 comes out.
Yeah. And at one point,
that
they
sounds
have to
amazing.
turn themselves into the Nazis,
and it's 4 hours long.
Yeah. What?
Well, he feels like it at least.
So, what'd you give it?
For me, I mean, 3.5. I'm just kidding.
3.5.
No,
it's okay.
This is about a 2.5. It's middle ground. Like, it's a good war movie. It's fun. There are a lot of spots where, like, you'll just find yourself staring off in the middle distance and looking at your phone or doing whatever. You're not going to miss much of the plot, because I guarantee it was all like scenery shots. But it's good and it's serviceable. So I would say 2.5 for me.
Nice. And Scott?
I would say I'm pretty much right there. I would say if you're going to recommend this movie, the best way to watch this is to read the synopsis, fast forward an hour ahead, and watch the movie. Because that's where the whole movie starts taking place. Because I think the whole first hour is them they're kind of setting it, but it doesn't really belong. But I had fun watching the second half of this movie. And that's kind of what gave my score a little bit better than than a 2. I give it a 2.5.
Yeah.
Because of the second half of the movie.
It definitely had a very, and I know this is completely different plots, but it had a very Inglourious Bastards feel to it for a little bit, where it's like, okay, you got to infiltrate the Nazis. You've got a woman who's, playing the, she's a spy in this, and she's going to try to take down the Nazis with them. The bar scene, just there were a lot of elements that I felt was very Inglourious Bastards. Now, obviously, the plots are completely different, and
Inglourious Bastards is
it's a great movie, yes,
times better.
But for me, that's kind of where I felt. So
so I'm gonna go a little higher than you guys. I'm actually gonna give it a 3 because I am obsessed with movies around this time period. I think just because I personally didn't like it, it still
So
was.
you hated it?
No, not at all. Because I would watch it again.
I mean, a 3.
Oh, here we go.
A 3 is very, very rough. I mean, I think he hated the movie.
So I would see this at the Majestic. I would watch it again. I would sit down and try and figure out more stuff, what they were thinking about with the direction. It's it's not just one person online calling this the greatest war movie of all time. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of respectable people from that time period. So like I said, with
Are they all dead now?
Not all of them, but like with the Once Upon a Time in the West, maybe I was expecting something else or something, but I can't get past how good the plot of this is with such a crappy execution, and maybe that's me, and maybe that's
I 100% understand exactly where you're.
Yeah, I know.
Where you're coming from.
Maybe we're
shockingly enough.
maybe I'm desensitized to this stuff, but I enjoy these kind of like epic war time films, and maybe if I gave it another shot or a couple more shots, I could see the greatest war film of all time in it. But I definitely wouldn't tell anyone not to watch this,
right?
And I would definitely see it for myself. So that's where I am with it. But I think it was a great pick.
It was enjoyable. And I think I liked it a lot more going in, not reading a lot of what the internet was saying.
Yeah,
like greatest war movie or this or that. And
this was after.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, like, if maybe I would have saw that, or with people like, especially with Once Upon a Time. I had a stroke. Once Upon a Time in the West. I was talking too fast. You know how it's like you read all these people like falling over themselves over it, and it's like, okay, maybe what am I missing? And then like what you did, you went back and rewatched it. I'm glad I didn't do that, only because I think maybe knowing this many people liked this movie before I chose it would have made it feel like, A, I was choosing it because it was so revered, and B, maybe would have liked it differently. But you're right. I mean, it's a great premise, great story, marred by some weird executions. But I mean, 2.5 for me feels right there. But it's a good movie.
That's fine.
It's fun,
and I agree with you. I'm trying to give it the props it deserves by also saying like the reason that it's that I don't like it. I'm not saying that. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense.
I would actually like to see if Tarantino has this on his radar. I know you bring him up a lot, but for me, like, this feels like a Tarantino movie.
I think
it's
so.
not well known enough, and it's an old '60s, Richard Burton movie. Because honestly, I've heard about this movie in weird ways. This is not talked about. You've got other movies like I said, Dirty Dozen, The Great Escape. All those movies are talked about. No one talks about Where Eagles Dare.
Right. And I know Tarantino's a big Richard Burton guy, so I assume. I'm
sure it's
know
landed on his radar somewhere.
I've just never heard him talk about it. Okay, guys. Well, that was this week's movie, and we will be moving on to Scott's pick.
What do you got for us?
What do you have for us next week, Scotty boy?
So, I had a couple in the bank, and then this movie kind of flew in out of nowhere, and it just derailed my whole train.
Whole train?
My whole train.
He has a whole train.
I saw a preview to this, watching some other previews to another movie, and I'm like, I have to see this movie. It stars the greatest actor of all time,
Nicolas Cage.
It's from 1985, starring Chuck Norris, Invasion USA.
Time for dinner.
No one thought it could ever happen here. They are an army of international terrorists.
America has not been invaded by a foreign enemy in nearly 200 years.
Their target, America. Their objective, control.
18 hours from now, America will be a different place.
Now, only one thing stands in their way.
It's time to die.
Didn't work, huh? Now it will.
They wanted a war.
See you in hell.
He gave them one.
Send me a postcard.
Chuck Norris. Invasion USA.
So I would say our next show is just going to be nothing but Chuck Norris jokes for an hour. So tune in for that.
I'm in.
All right. Yeah.
I'm definitely in on this one.
So, as always, I own it. I never seen it, but that's going to change this week.
Up.
So, cool. We are really looking forward to that. And then we really appreciate you guys listening to the Scream retrospective. We know we're about a week late, but we all did see Scream that Saturday. These are just coming out differently because that's the way we do things. And we exactly.
That's
so
scary important.
We just got back from Scream. I mean, literally 10 minutes walking out of the theater and onto the mic. So we 25 years and 25 days after the first one comes out, this movie hits theaters, and we all got a chance to check it out. What do you think, Jordan?
I want to tell you what I thought. This is my top 5 Scream movies. Scream, Scream 2, Scream 4, Scream 3.
So this is your second favorite?
This is my second favorite Scream movie out of the entire 5-movie run. It made me feel like I was watching the original.
Yeah.
And not a, oh my God, they're doing the same thing sort of thing. It's just the feeling I had, the feel of it, the vibe of it. It was a new piece of candy, wrapped in this. It was so good for me. Like, it was just, it hit all the marks that I needed. It was gory. It was bloody in good ways.
Incredibly gory.
Oh my God. And I think it felt very Wes Craven, even though we're years removed from his passing. Like, it feels like a Wes Craven movie. It was, I loved it.
Well, it was for Wes.
It was for Wes. Even one of the
Who
characters
the fuck is
was
Wes.
Wes.
Wes Craven.
I know.
Oh, yeah. I
right?
That's,
Like,
that's,
who the hell is that
That's
guy?
literally the second time I did that joke today.
Right. It wasn't funny then either.
It wasn't. Yeah, that's why no one laughed.
Keep throwing that spaghetti against the wall, buddy.
I completely agree. I thought it was it was okay. So I said this in the theater. Matrix came out and they tried to do something similar and it completely failed. This completely succeeded. So the meta-ness of this,
very self-referential.
All of its inside jokes, all of its self, like even when you get to the end of this film and you see like everything kind of wrap itself up and tie itself together, you're like, that was fucking awesome.
Makes sense. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, and like everything in this movie was a surprise. I would really recommend you not spoiling it for yourself because I actually went into this completely blind. I said I decided, I know I could have ruined it for myself, but I decided not to.
And Aaron saw the movie unfold in front of his eyes where he thought he knew what was going to go on.
And it
was completely wrong.
Yeah, something
Completely
he predicted
different.
comes up and then it goes by and it's
He's like,
definitely
"Damn
not
it."
what he predicted. He's like, well, shit, there goes that.
And then what Jordan predicted 100% came true, which pissed me off.
Not totally, but something did happen that I had a feeling of, and oh god,
Dewey dies.
Two
I mean, we already
things.
talked about it on the retrospective. So
Yeah.
Well, Dewey does die, and that's the only thing I want to ruin for you. But
one of the major plot points.
It's
Yeah,
not-
whatever.
How is it a major plot point? How does it affect the plot? In
But
any way?
even
wants to
somebody
know
like
Dewey
me,
dies.
you could kind of see that coming because you knew that they were going to cannibalize one of the
I
legacy
agree.
characters.
You have to.
Yeah, so,
You have to. You
I
got to
mean,
give them no reason to come back.
either
and
they
you gotta
all
go
died
out.
or none of them died. Which was it? So, I mean, from the very beginning to the very end, I mean, it even references all the new stuff, the elevated horror, which
Oh, they kind of joke at it.
I
Like,
love
they make
it.
a joke.
and what did you think, Scott? I love this movie so much. I'm just gonna gush, and I don't want to be like that.
I really enjoyed this movie. spoiler alert, if you don't, this might give away something. If you don't want to, you don't want to hear it, don't listen. I didn't really get the whole Obi-Wan Billy Loomis thing. That kind of threw me off a little bit.
That was weird.
It was a little strange, and it was like they were trying to, in my eyes, it was like they were trying to kind of redeem his character from the first movie, which was sat really weird for this movie.
I don't think so at all. I think it was more of a, you're related to a serial killer and you have to live with that fact, and it's always something that's going to be hanging over you. But it doesn't.
I get that.
But it's not who you are.
But it's the weird Billy in the mirror giving her the wink. Yeah, good job, kid. It was just a little bit strange that kind of threw me off. But I really enjoyed the movie enough to. Like I said, it beckons back to the first Scream.
Well, I kind of referenced the fact that it felt very Dexter-ish.
Right.
It was
Dark Passenger.
Yeah, it wasn't even Dark Passenger, and it wasn't even Dexter for the whole. It was after, I think, season 2 of Dexter, after he killed his brother, who was a serial killer. He started seeing his brother in like things, and that's what that kind of felt like. It was like, hey, remember, I was a killer. You might be a killer too.
Yeah, well,
embrace it.
You now have
you've got knife powers.
Yeah, you have the instinct. You have the ability. You've seen yourself do it, so. It's something that's always going to be kind of looming over you, and that's kind of how I took it. It was more of a looming.
Was it Billy looming?
It was Billy looming over you. But what was really weird was when Stu put his hand on Billy and was like, "We'll teach her."
And they looked at each other in the mirror, and they just nodded together.
And then you look over, and you're like, "What the fuck is Hayden Christensen doing in here?"
What I really
fucking edit.
What I really another thing I really enjoyed about this film was how. It knew, it didn't play off of the typical jump scares. Like, it set you up for jump scare after jump scare, but it never paid off. And then when you weren't expecting it, it was right there in your face.
There was that whole time where the blonde-haired kid, the daughter of the sheriff, the son of the sheriff, was sitting there, and every time you open the fridge, you think, oh, shit, he's right behind the door.
Got the music
and then he closed the door.
The build-up.
Oh, God, he opened this door. And then he closed the door. Nothing happened. He did it like 4 times in this entire, the whole scene, and I'm just like, okay, now you're just going to overdo it at some point, and then
I
shit
thought
happens.
it was perfect.
That was good.
I think it was a very aware scene.
I think it was one more little trick away from being just campy, but they did it well. And there wasn't a whole lot of really bad dialogue. You would always think there's a bad dialogue in it, and these horror movies, there wasn't a ton of it. There was one line. It was like, how do you like that torch? And there's always that one line, but for the most part, I think it felt updated enough to hit with newer audiences, but for people like us who, saw the original in the theater or, snuck it at their aunt's house on VHS, it was perfect. I think it was great.
I agree. And what was I going to say? There's a really meta scene of Stab 8 in this film, and I really
Stab 8.
I was just going to say, this is my call to whoever's doing these movies now, Miramax Dimension. I know they're not doing it, but it's like Lighthouse.
Paramount. This one was a Paramount movie.
Please make that Stab 8 exactly what we saw in the movie. I need
sleeveless Ghostface.
I need sleeveless Ghostface with a blowtorch,
chrome mask, blowtorch knife.
Yeah, it needs to happen. I just need one, and then you guys can go back to printing money.
Yeah, it was weird because a lot of the first movie relied on a lot of jokes to make you laugh. This had a lot of moments that made you laugh. There were a couple one-off lines. There's one part where someone says, "Well, maybe you're the killer. You're disgraced from the force. You drink a lot. Your wife left you all this stuff." And then Dewey goes, "Well, maybe you're the killer because that stabbed deep." I'm like, that's fucking great. That made me LOL so much. But yeah, I mean, fucking Stab 8. I want Stab 8 so bad.
I want Stab 8 so, and the fact that the B is the 8, it's absolutely mad. It's so great.
8 over the top. Well, and they're kind of making fun of themselves too. Where the whole point is that Hollywood's getting so tired with what they're doing is that they're not even renaming these as sequels.
They're not even trying.
It's not even. Scream. It's not really actually Stab 8, even though it's the 8th movie. It's just called Stab.
Right.
So they're kind of making fun of the fact that they named this Scream, and it's just. I liked that, poking fun at themselves while actually telling a good story. And it's like, okay.
Well, let's rate it. What do you give it?
For me, I would say a 3.
Really?
Yeah, it's not. Well,
wow.
You know what? No, 3.5.
Okay.
3.5. I would say.
So you hated it.
Memories of a Murder.
No, I'm just saying 3.5. I mean, it has some flaws. I mean, it's a good movie. I can't say it's not a good movie. And For me, I would say Scream is a 4. Scream is not a perfect movie. I like Scream. I really love Scream, but it's not a perfect movie to me. So as Scream would be a 4, this is my next in line. A 3.5 is probably.
What about you, Scott?
I'd say 3.5. I'm kind of right.
You guys want to make out?
I'm kind of right there. No, I think it was it was fun. It was. I don't know if all these movie companies got together this year and were like, okay, we're gonna really hit you with the nostalgia movies.
It does seem like a trend
because you got Spider-Man, you got Ghostbusters, now Scream. They're bringing back all the stuff and just really kind of cramming it in your lap. It was fun.
All these old movies are like, who's still alive?
Right.
Okay, let's get them.
And I think it brings back the old audience where, like, someone like me can look at my daughter and say, you want to go watch Scream? And it may introduce a whole new genre of people,
right?
To that
generation
to that genre. So it's for me, it was fun. It was fun.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Maybe I'm just.
It's a 5.
It's
a perfect movie.
To me, as you said, the same. It's Scream, and then this one for me. It's back to back, 4. So I gave Scream 1 a 4. I give this a 4, and because I don't even consider it a sequel. It's more like this is a great movie, and then this is a great movie, and they just kind of connect to each other, and they have the same characters, and I think. You Scream, the new one, the 2022 version, stands alone. Like, you can show this to people and then be like, okay, I need to see everything else because this movie is so good. So, and I agree, there are some stuff in this that doesn't work. It doesn't make a lot of sense. The whole inhaler thing is going to bug me for the rest of my life. But I think as far as when you say this movie is just as good as the first one, it is just as good as the first one because it takes that generational leap and it moves it into a category of, okay, this is something new. Like if my son grew up and I showed him this Scream before I showed him the original Scream, I think he would be he'd be like, this is awesome. Like, what? Let's watch more of this. And that's my whole thing about it.
Well,
so
and the reason why I would go less than that and why a 3.5 works for me is because I don't like the whole. I like the connection to Billy Loomis. I didn't like the fucking. He's a Jedi fucking Force ghost bullshit.
Once again,
and I'm not describing this the right way. He's not a ghost. He's not. He's.
It's the right way.
This girl who is the illegitimate daughter of Billy Loomis and her mother.
Spoiler
is
alert.
Fuck everybody. We've already spoiled so much.
All our new listeners this week.
Yeah.
From
sorry,
Jeff,
guys.
From the
Damn
Jeff interview.
We'll put spoiler alerts at the beginning, whatever. But it's one of those things where. That felt weird to me. It almost felt comical. Like she's having conversations with someone who's dead, who she's never met, and is guiding her in numerous scenes to the point where it kind of just felt weird, especially at the end. That was the part that really fucked with me. I'm like,
only reason I'm going to
God.
argue that is because the movie is self-aware. She's taking medication for it. She has had to watch her father on screen for years and years and always be related to these serial murders that are happening in this town. And they're making multiple movies about it. So yeah, of course she would know who he is.
I'm not saying he doesn't know who he is. I'm saying the whole that it just felt weird.
It just felt a little bit out of place.
I disagree.
For the movie. I think if you take that whole aspect of it out, even knowing that she was Billy's daughter, it would have still worked.
She's
just
worried
as
about
well.
being a serial killer the whole movie. That it makes sense in the film. So I disagree with you guys, but not a
that's
big
fine.
deal. And you don't have to justify your score to me 3.5, whatever. You think that's a good score? I'm glad that it's a 3.5 for you.
It's terrible.
It is a good score.
It's a terrible score.
And you are you, and I'm me, and Scott's Scott, and I tend to lean a little bit higher on scores.
This is the other question I have for you. How was that milkshake? I never asked.
It was bomb. It was bomb.
Oh,
I love cherry pie.
It looks good.
I love cherry pie filling, and it was exactly that. Just take some ice cream. I might just start doing that.
Just make pie and then make shakes out of the pie that you just made.
Not even get pie. Just go
get those little hand pies.
Yeah.
So for context, we saw it at the Majestic, and they had a special milkshake. Well, what was it called?
Everyone's a suspect.
Everyone's a suspect.
And what it was vanilla ice cream milkshake with cherry pie filling.
It looked like the glass was bleeding.
Yeah, but no, you can go and buy cherry pie filling out of that Crisco thing.
No, but I want the crust. I want.
There's no crust in that.
Yeah, but mine would have a little bit of crust.
That would have been good.
right?
So
a little bit of crunch, something to break up
that
the smoothness of it.
milkshake 5 out of 5. Just FYI.
4 or 5, I guess. I don't know.
All right, guys. So that is a ton of content for you today. If you're not happy, I don't know what to tell you. But we will be back next week with Scott's pick of Invasion USA. And then after that, I think
Snack show.
And, well, maybe. I don't know. Because we got to work out some logistics. But you guys don't need to know that. It'll all come out right to your phone.
They do now.
You can cut it out. Anyways.
Cut nothing out anymore.
I'm going to say it one last time. I'm going to thank Jeff for coming on the show today. Just couldn't have gone better. Thanks, Jordan, for coming on the show today. I'm Aaron.
I'm Jordan.
And apparently, I don't get thanked for coming on the show today. Scott.
What?
It's like I'm a guest. Like, thanks, Jordan, for showing up
Thanks
this
for
week.
showing up, Jordan.
Since August.
What I meant was, I meant to say I'm Aaron and then do the thing, but for some reason I was thinking Jordan for being on the show. Don't ask me why. I called myself Jordan one day.
I mean, it hit me right in the feels.
I was hoping Jordan would think. I was hoping you would all think.
This made me feel of a lesser man.
You
That's
threw me
all.
off, man.
That's okay.
you immediately thanked me and then said, I'm Aaron. I'm like, I'm Jordan.
So let's do this. Let's try this again. Thank you, Jeff, for being on the show
thanks
today.
so much. It was great talking to you. Hopefully you'll come back on again.
Maybe not after hearing the end of this.
Yeah,
no, we're going to cut that out.
Maybe I'll show up next week.
All right, yeah.
I'm Aaron.
I'm Jordan.
And Scott.
And we will see you next week on I'll Watch It Later podcast. I don't have anything funny to say.
I was waiting.
I know.
No,
sorry.
No swarmy signs off.
No.